Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast, where every week we hear an amazing story from a serious founder who built a valuable software company and did it without big funding. I'm your host, Greg Head, and this week my guest is Russ Perry, the CEO and founder of Design Pickle. I've known Russ in Phoenix for over 15 years before he started Design Pickle, and I've watched him create this amazing company that has grown to be a very large company. It is a done for you subscription creative design services kind of company. So it's a tech enabled services company, very SaaS-like with its recurring revenues and how he manages the company. But instead of a software product that delivers the value, there's software plus people that deliver every week on creative services. It's quite a large business and it's getting larger. He's raised some growth capital and he shares the story of his amazing journey. Hey, Russ Perry, welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast. Good to see you again.
Hey, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah. And here is in Phoenix, where I've known you for a long time.
Well, not to be too pretentious, but technically Scottsdale. But yes, this is where
Yes.
we first met in Scottsdale, a suburb of Phoenix. But
Yes.
yeah, been here, born and raised, native Arizonan.
All right. Part of the Phoenix ecosystem where I was for 25 years before I left town. You haven't left like some of our other pals who've gone there here, but you're still running Design Pickle. You actually shared that you moved your office this last month, downsized as you have more remote people here to, the old stomping grounds. You've been in North Scottsdale for, is it almost 10 years with Design Pickle, Russ?
This January, yeah, not sure when this will end, but January 2025 will be our 10-year anniversary of starting this, which a lot was done down the building stairs around the corner at a company called Press Coffee, which is still
Yeah.
here,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
mapping it out, figuring it out, thinking to myself, is this a thing or not? It doesn't seem like anyone's doing it. Maybe I should try it.
Yeah, well, you're an innovator here, and not just let's say a traditional SaaS company. Practical founder means reasonably crazy. We're all doing something abnormal. How crazy we want to be and how risky we want the bets. That's all up to everybody. But you created a massive innovation in the design services, creative agency kind of space that you came out of with Design Pickle years ago. Russ, well, let's just start with where is Design Pickle these days? I know it's the number one. And if you Google it, everybody's saying, we're better than Design Pickle and we're like
Yes.
Design Pickle, only we're this. So you're the leader that everybody's trying to throw rocks at. But what's the current state of Design Pickle? Employees, contractors, project
Yeah,
size, all that kind of stuff, just so we can get a sense of how big this has got.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, like the current state of Design Pickle is roughly the where we started in terms of a concept and a business 10 years ago. And it's
Yeah.
simply subscription style graphic and creative support, almost like a fractional team member or
Yeah.
team,
Hmm.
and today where we sit, we support our software sits on top of about I'd say 4,000 users that
Hmm.
sign into our platform every day to make requests. And these range from everyday, I call it everyday design, digital ads,
Hmm.
graphics for websites, content, video, motion, whatever. It's the full gamut of visual and creative design. And we aggregate that real time and distribute it out to our clients' creatives. So every client
Hmm.
has like basically a dedicated team that works for them, depending on the type of creative project it is. And we're in 12. Our creatives are a whole contract. We call it like a private workforce. So
Hmm.
they work for us every day. They're in 12 different countries around the world. It fluctuates depending on seasonality because
Hmm.
as demand grows per busy times like right now, we'll add
Yeah.
more creatives, but anywhere from 500 to 600 creatives that are focused their work day to day on Design Pickle. And really the beauty of it is it just is it's a always on system to access design support and professional creatives whenever you need. So you really don't have to worry about hiring process, which we know can take time. You don't have
Mhm.
to worry about
Yeah.
fixed costs of employment and tax and all the things that go into managing that team. And it's super fluid. So as you need more, you just add more output, and as you need less, you add less. So it really is flexible for any size company. I mean, we work from solo to Fortune 500,
Yeah.
but the idea there is that you can come in really seamlessly, get what you need, really, really fast, either 1 to 2 day turnarounds for concepts and ideas. And just the whole concept, going back, man, it's a bit walk down memory lane thinking about it, but it was like just making it not a stressful process to get the creative content you need. And I felt like even when I ran an agency, there was so many steps and process and cover your ass stuff, and we got to sign this, and here's your limitations, and this is the amount of billing, and here's your revisions, and so it's like, how do we eliminate all that and let clients and creative just work together and create and do that in as frictionless as a possible process.
So would you say, or could I say, it's a done for you subscription service for design work, right?
Yeah.
So you put your request in and they come back, and it's not like an Upwork or a marketplace. You sign up for a subscription, a flat fee subscription, and you can get as much graphic design work as will fit in your subscription.
Exactly. And it's, if you think about what a lot of people are familiar with, which is like hiring an employee, once the employee is hired, and as long as they're doing great, there's really no friction, right? You talk to
Yeah.
them every day, you work with them, they get you stuff. But there's all of the other parts around that go into managing that. The hiring, the job descriptions, the management, the performance management, the cost structure on top of that. What happens when they're not doing good? They leave, they're on vacation. There's so many pieces. They're only one person. So if there's too much, they can't do what you need. So we're like taking the best part of when everything's working really great with an
Right.
employee, but
Mhm.
that's your experience all the time. You don't have to worry about any of the other parts. So it really is like done for you, but from the entire process beyond just the working and designing part, which is sometimes where you spend the least amount of your time when you're trying to manage people and trying to, and any function, not just creativity. So
Yeah.
we just don't want people to have to worry about that, and we take care of all of that, even really technical stuff that people don't think about, like compliance. I know it's not the sexiest topic in the
Mhm.
world, but a fun fact I always like to share to freak people out is, generally speaking, if you're working with contractors, there's a greater than 50% chance, sometimes up in the 75 to 80% chance, depending on where they're located in the world, that they're using pirated copies of software and things, and the legalities that go into that
Images
can
and yes,
image
copyright.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So copyright. So, that's all stuff that we take care of as well. So whether it's our AI generative tools or just the Adobe software itself, everything's taken care of. And literally it's like, we just want you to focus on requesting revisions and getting the work. That's all you have. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, and it's massive now. So it's a big business. Can you talk about the revenue of the business or the size now? It's gotten
Yeah.
quite big.
So,
Yeah.
so we're on just the slow, steady growth stage. Our next big revenue milestone is 30 million that we're
Yeah.
headed towards.
Yeah.
For us, it's been an up and down year. I
Yeah.
always like to talk about the wins, but also the challenges. And I think for us, because we focus a lot, our bread and butter is going to be the small business client. We have
Mhm.
big, we have smaller, but really it's a company that has consistent creative needs,
Mhm.
and they are in a position where they may not have enough people or enough headroom for full-time employees, or
Right.
adding them.
Right.
And so for us, like, macroeconomics always are challenging for us. And I know 2023 was kind of a halting year for a lot of people
Mhm.
coming out of the COVID boom. But at the end of the day, we continue to grow. And
Yeah.
for us, a lot of that is just around us being really, really focused on delivering a great, great quality product. Like, year over year, retention improve, dollar average customer size improves. We continue to see the product and the experience improve. But we're not like, like many of your people you interview, we're not like this hyperscale, grow at all costs, burn all the cash, and get
Yeah,
more done.
we don't
When
invite
you
them on the
can.
Practical Founders podcast. No, I mean, they get enough
That's right.
coverage, Russ. You're
Yes.
an Arizona
Yes.
success story. You've built a
We're
really hot
just a
company. Yeah.
humble, do it, and I joke like I didn't think about building software until like 4 or 5 years in. I was just like, I don't even have an engineer. I don't even know what that means. Like, let's just stitch it all together. And that's probably one of my bigger regrets is getting to building our platform really late in the game. But we're still we've gotten there. We have an incredible team now.
So before it was this flat fee service model for the bottom of the pyramid volume graphic design. Every podcast has 17 for ads and podcasts and web pages and the stuff that you really don't want to pay an expensive designer on your team to do all day long, right? It's just crazy.
Yeah.
But now it's a tech enabled service. So you've got software to help manage the projects and the communications, I guess probably like Basecamp. You put in projects, things get done and there's approvals and communications and all that kind of stuff. But you're probably hyper automating, as everybody does who has big teams of people doing similar things. So it's got to be very exciting.
Absolutely, and you hit on this, and with something you said is we're really thinking about how do we systemize through software and experience, and that's something that is really, I believe, very unique to what we do in creativity because creativity is so subjective. It's not like
Yeah.
we're chatting. It's not like an end code product that works the same way every time. And
Mm-hmm.
so for us to say, how can we use software to better create a unified input into a human driven system that gets a better consistent output? Those are the software challenges we're thinking about all the time, and how we modify the request brief and how we modify the review and approval
Yes.
process and how we modify the quality control process.
Right.
It's like all these micro systems of experiences to say, out in the world, normally these are just Wild West. You don't know what happens when you ask a designer to go design something or you need something. Sometimes you write an email, sometimes you send a voice note, sometimes you talk to them, and all of these things create different output. So how do we make that organized and systematized? So, but it's like this crazy balance of being like software, but also being kind of therapists and psychologists too,
Yeah.
with people in communication.
Yeah. Well,
and a lot of reps, millions and millions and millions of requests that we've done. So it's like we get a lot of data on what works and what doesn't.
Well, it's really fascinating, and it's a little software-like in your business model with recurring revenue and churn,
Mm-hmm.
and ICP and product market fit, maybe service market fit, and all those kind of things. But yeah, people are delivering on the back end, and now they're AI powered people, doing more things more powerfully. You've grown this company, you bootstrapped it. You're an Arizona success story, and in the creative industry, Design Pickle is really well known, and you just raised some growth equity funding. You grew it to a certain size. You invited in some other investors to grow a little faster after, I don't know, how many years was it? When did you do that? A little
That
project?
was at the
22?
beginning of 2022. So
Yeah, so a couple of years ago. How much
exactly,
money did you raise?
we raised 25 million in a growth round. It was a bit of a weird experience because we've never raised any money, but
Yeah,
we were at a size where it wasn't just like friends and family. Here's what I need. So, but we found a great partner with Colorado River Partners, and they put together a deal for us. And the intention was to do exactly what we've done: grow the team, improve the platform, expand in terms of our sales and marketing efforts to continue to grow the company. And at the end of the day, it was for me a decision to go from bootstrapped, where every month could be make or
the
break,
edge.
right?
Uh-huh.
Like, especially as you get bigger and the decisions get bigger, to actually having a war chest available to where we could experiment and try some things and test a little bit more freely. And it's been just such a huge value, I think, at our size to start to see what's next. And a lot of our current roadmap for our product has been informed by a lot of those tests and experiments that now we're
Yeah.
committed to.
Right. Well, and growth equity is a pretty practical game. You didn't go to Silicon Valley and raise big VC funding. You didn't show up at all the pitch events and so forth. This is, a growth round. You didn't turn into a crazy spend it all, go for broke kind of company, but this is such a massive market. You're headed towards
Right.
30 million, almost there, but this could be 100 or 200 or $300 million business and not really inflict any pain on all those agencies and designers on Upwork all around the world and all those employees and, you know, software tech in the design world. This is just such a massive opportunity for you.
Yeah, the way I like to size it to my team, and this always just gives people a little bit of context, to hit our wildest growth dreams, somewhere between 50, 100 million ARR and
Yeah, yeah.
great multiples, it's like less than 10,000 clients. And so it's like, I think there's probably 10,000 marketers and creators and agencies and people in Arizona
Yeah,
alone,
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
to cover that. And I think that's what I love about what we do is,
Yeah, it's
we're
amazing.
not having to be this world dominating force. There could be 20 design pickles all doing really great.
Yeah,
And it is such a huge addressable market. And I do think it's an evergreen business because the tools are changing on how people are
yeah.
creating,
Uh-huh.
but the process of creation is, in at least my viewpoint, that's always going to be the same. Someone needs something. They'll have someone that will manage the creation process, whether it's bots or mind reading or Canva or whatever. They give that output, say, "Hey, is this what you think?" And they say yes or no, change this, do this, and then when you're done, the files go somewhere. And we're trying to just cover the whole ground there and keep that, again, like we were sharing, like that just be out of sight, out of mind on how it gets done. You
Yeah.
just focus on those points of the process that the most value can be given inside of creation itself.
Well, as a tech-enabled service, a done-for-you service here in the design world, it's not exactly a software, but it's very similar to a SaaS business, and
Mm-hmm.
hence the growth equity investors who invest in tech-enabled service and B2B SaaS. And there are plenty of B2B SaaS founders that do some services and know there's a done-for-you layer in their business. Some people just need
Mm-hmm.
the thing done. They don't want to
Mm-hmm.
do it themselves with the software. They just need it done, and it's very popular and efficient. It's very SaaS-like. Can you say about what your margins are? A typical software margins are, say, 70% margin, and we spend the rest on R&D and marketing and so forth. But the tech-enabled services can be as high as 50% and sometimes higher than that margin, gross margin.
Yeah, it depends on seasonality, not to get into nuances, but we're in the high 50s, low
Yeah,
60s, and
yeah,
we've gone there.
yeah,
But yeah, we're not SaaS, pure SaaS, but if you look at pure services in the 30s or 40s or sometimes worse, we're
yeah,
kind of splitting that difference between it. I think for us, it really is about those traditional SaaS metrics of
yeah,
retention. We have an extremely sticky long tail of retention. So the initial client journey is very volatile for us because creativity is a very easy decision to start or stop. You're not
yeah.
switching your CRM, you're not switching your
Huh?
file management system. You're like, I want to work with you. I don't want to work with you. That's about it.
The new guy
But
doesn't want to work
once
with you. Yeah, right. The
yeah,
whole
but
thing.
once that sorts out over the first 90 days, we see a really strong base of retention because we just become the go-to partner. So it is a bit stressful if you are just a SaaS guy looking at our retention, but ultimately it does level out to be something that's very SaaS-like
Yeah,
because we're like a trusted partner, and we've seen people jump from company to company and bring us in everywhere they go because they just know what they're going to get.
yeah. That's very
Um,
consistent.
but I do sure wish I had some SaaS-like metrics purely. That would be really rad inside of all of this.
Not all those people, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so, maybe sometime, 20 years in the future, we'll do the telepathic API request and get, the graphics requested. We'd be done without any humans, but we have a long time before that's happened. It's going to be human powered forever at this point. But let's go back here. You and I met, I think, in 2009, 2010, in that very neighborhood, literally across the street there,
Hmm.
with Kevin Wall in his office over there. That was a transition time between old software, new software. SaaS was just starting. Um, you've created a SaaS business in the design services world, effectively, and
Hmm.
it's the opposite of that miserable digital agency experience, right? That agency experience. I don't know any agency owners that think it's great, or employees or customers. So miserable over there. You must be very happy to have created a totally new thing that,
Well,
you
it's
know.
because I was miserable for so long. I
All
was one
right.
of those guys, like
Yeah.
it is a different take on it. And,
Yeah.
the not so secret of Design Pickle is, I'd say, the largest cohort of our clients are agencies. It's not the
They
majority
just
of
need
them. We have
stuff done and they know how to get it, and they don't want to do it themselves, and let's get it done.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But, and I think for the founders listening out there, it's, the real secret to our success is not innovating some new industry or innovating some crazy tech that's never been done before. It's just to say, wow, where's there a lot of friction, and how can we remove that friction and create an experience around that concept? Is to say, this is going to be here. It's been here. It's going to be here for a long time. Is there a way to really hyper optimize that experience? And that is our service. That is our product. Is a very streamlined version of something that everybody understands, everybody
Mhm.
knows, every business really needs.
Yeah. And it seems to me like a business model innovation, and it's up and running now, so it seems kind of normal. But like when you were doing it in the beginning, we all knew about Adobe Photoshop and designers and making a banner and doing all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, are you doing any new kind of graphics that didn't, that other people can't do?
Today or then?
Yeah. No, I mean, are you doing projects that I can't hire an agency or an Upwork person to do?
No, we
Yeah.
cover. I mean, it's like,
Right.
making breakfast. We got eggs, bacon, toast,
Yeah.
and everybody else
Right.
got that too.
But you had a massive innovation. Maybe we can go back to how you got there. But you said unlimited graphic design, requests for I don't know, was it $300 a month? What was in the beginning? It was something
It
outrageous.
was Well, the real initial price was 195,
Okay,
which
right.
the very first month my clients were telling me was stupidly low, and I needed to. That's how you know it's time for a pricing increase, is when your clients are telling you you're not charging enough. So,
Yeah,
but
but
it
but
was
that was the proposition. You waved your hands out there,
yeah,
and I guess that's why you had a funny name for the company, is you get some attention. Hey,
mhm.
195, 200, 300, 400, $500 a month, unlimited design requests. That was a real innovation at the time.
Yeah. I mean, what you're getting at, and I think this is applicable to a lot of people, is the consumer experience of buying design was not clear.
Sucked.
And yeah, and you never knew what the price was going to be. You never knew what the process was going to be. The output was always a mystery until it was really, you're in really deep. And so, for how do you make that systematized? How do you make that
Yeah.
standardized? And of course, there's this, you're talking about, this was 2013 and 2014 when I started to put together the ideas of Design Pickle. That was a time where SaaS was really hitting the mainstream.
Yeah.
Everyone was used
Mhm.
to the consumer products.
Mhm.
Obviously, we had a lot of B2B. And I just was like, wait, there's nothing in this space that has this type of buying experience. So you can innovate a business model, you can innovate features, but you can also innovate just how it's bought and
Of
sold.
course. Yeah, totally.
And that was another piece, I think, that we, today we are, you know, the originator of the
Yeah, the OG.
productized service
Mhm.
moment. Not just design, but there's companies, podcasting, audio engineering, video,
Yeah.
everything that we've done in design, people have copied in other service industries.
Yeah, productized. You said productized before, and that's so different than I don't know any agency owners, those creative guys that are so talented and, but they can't think productized. It's almost, they're not capable of it. But you productize a service there.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that? Did you look at SaaS and say, "I bet we could do that here," or did it grow out of something else? How did you get this thing going?
It was really three pieces that came together really quick.
Mm,
First, I was taking care of some family estate for a grandmother who had passed away in Colorado, and I was driving a lot on the big freeways of Denver, listening to this podcast by Y Combinator. I don't know if it's out anymore, called Startup School.
yeah, yeah,
And they were just talking all the time about recurring revenue.
yeah.
And here I was, an agency guy, being like, wait, what is this thing? You get paid every month and you have a credit card and you charge them? This is
That'd be
incredible.
Nirvana. Yeah, right.
Yeah. two was with my consulting that I was doing at the time. I had innovated around just a simple early design pickle prototype, not because I wanted it to make it a business. I just wanted there to be a way for clients to request things and get stuff when I was occupied consulting in other areas. And that started to work
To make your life easier
well.
as an agency owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the third thing was I got some thank yous from my clients using the system. And if you've been in creativity, it's very rare to get thank yous. You're
Yeah.
always usually the one in trouble. So those were the things. I mean, then I did just a search like subscription design. And I was like, wait a minute, there's nothing, no one is doing
So
this.
you were
There's no one
doing this
selling it.
just as a like a here, take care of your request. Send an email and we'll have
Yep.
somebody take care of it, something like that. And then it
Yeah,
worked.
I was a little like this. I was just like, hey, everybody, email this and I'll do it. I didn't
Oh,
really
I see. Okay,
reveal that
right, yeah.
I had some assistants and people doing it. But one day, one of those project managers just sent back the request to the client. I didn't even know about it. And I saw the client in office that week. He's like, hey, thanks for those business cards. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And I was like freaking out. I was like, wait, what is he talking
Somebody
about?
said thanks.
Yeah. And then my project manager was like, dude, Russ, they're business cards. You didn't need to review this. I could just done it. And then I was like, oh, well, this is way easier than brand strategies and positioning papers and core
Politics and
value.
yes.
Yeah. Like all of this stuff. I was like, what if I just did not super sexy, but every business needs this. And then, yeah, the other pieces of the model, the experience, design still today is very cumbersome if you're not using a company like Design Pickle. There's a lot of steps,
Oh
and
my
they
God.
become more and more steps the more risk there is in the projects, which is why agencies have like 6-month timelines and huge budgets because they're really doing risk mitigation if
Yeah.
things go wrong.
Well, that's amazing. So, did you launch this on the side and keep things going? A very practical founder strategy, and how long did it take before you felt like, oh, people I don't know can buy this thing and get an experience that doesn't suck, and they'll keep paying like that normal startup turn, productized
Yeah.
turn.
Well, in 2013, I was really at a crossroads of life. I was turning 30. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my next chapter and close my agency. There was a lot of ego and
Yeah,
identity and having
yeah.
that. I knew I didn't want to consult forever. So this kind of, hey, this could be a thing came about
Hmm.
at the end of 2013. And then I decided I was going to launch it. And, something I recommend for every founder is working with the business coach, preferably someone who talks about more than just business, life, balance, family, all of those things.
Hmm.
And I was working with a woman named Dina Patton. She's still someone I connect with every now and again here in Arizona. And she's like, this is you need to decide. And she didn't tell me what to do, but she's like, you can't live in this world of doing something you're not passionate about. So I launched, quote unquote, in 2015. It took a while to get it out the door. And in 2015 of January, we had traction straight away, 30 clients the first month. And I just had this very basic Excel sheet of Russ's expenses, Design Pickle income, consulting income, and try to get those lines to cross where my Design Pickle income was greater
Yeah,
than
classic move. Yeah.
my expenses. And by about June of 2015, I saw the trend line that was, at least at that time, amazing for me. I think we were at like 20K of revenue or 30K of revenue or something. And I was like, I can quit consulting. And so it was in the first 6 to 7 months
Wow.
of launching that I was able to do it full time. And then that's when things really, I mean, to be able to focus on it all day and not just nights,
Yeah.
weekends between clients was an incredible leverage point for the growth of the company.
And did you feel like, I mean, you could see you could deliver it and clients were happy and so forth, but did people understand this new business model concept? You probably had to
Oh,
explain it a
yeah.
few times. Was it easy kind
No,
of ad or something like that?
no, we never really had a problem explaining it. We kind of almost had a problem of it seems too good to be true, which
Ah,
actually we still kind of run into today sometimes, where it's like, what's the catch? Like you can just work with someone and but there are nuances, right? Like we don't talk about unlimited anymore because it's a little bit of a marketing gimmick, but
yeah.
your limitation for a service, any service like Design Pickle, is just the volume of output per day or per week or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever it is. And so that was probably the most confusing point. Is a lot of people would sign up, submit 30 things, and be like, "Wait, why isn't it done the next day?" And you're like, "Well, you're just sort of you're getting a slice of time of someone's day. If you want more of that, you can pay us more." So, but the offer and everything, and even today, like it's kind of comical. Like a sales call isn't like it's like, "Hey, Greg, we do design. You log in and submit it, and you get it the next day. Any questions?" Like it's like there's no real sales. It's just more like there's a different way to buy it and do it, and
Mhm.
it's very straightforward, which frankly has been a huge benefit because we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to make the wheel spin faster.
Well, did you go through a process here? That sounds like a lot of the product-led growth. They're not selling big, complicated B2B sales with salespeople and a sales cycle and a demos and all that kind of thing. It's more like, get to Calendly or Canva or whatever, where you just go try it
Yeah.
and
This
see.
I'll
You
give you
don't
my
please don't talk to us. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, here's my sales. Here's when I was doing sales. This was my sales call. You'd ask me a bunch of questions and I'd listen and I'd be like, you know what, Greg, those are all great questions. But here's the reality. I don't know if it's going to work for you. You should just sign up and try it.
Hmm.
Okay. And you decide if it works for you. And you're like, okay. And that was it. But you're right. It was I'm going to steal this, by the way. You coined something
Service-led
I've
growth.
never heard: service led growth.
Yeah,
That's what it is. Like you
yeah,
got to
yeah.
try it and experience it to be able to love it and use it more. So
Well,
thank you
I'll
for that
get you
marketing idea.
connected to Wes Bush, the product-led.com guy, product-led
Yeah.
growth guy. I read their 2 books there, but you ought to have a conversation on his podcast and vice versa there. But um, what he says is 90% of people don't want to talk to salespeople and go through a process. And most things are not that complicated. You just get out of my way, get me towards the product, and let me decide if I want it and let me stay in control. That's what people want out there, and every year more. So you're kind of just giving people what they want. It's one piece of the whole, whatever marketing or business or whatever design world. You're not doing everything there. But you also didn't decide just to do logos, be that logo design company, which we've seen,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
it's a palette of things from banners. You're not building websites. You're not doing UI design. You're not doing full videos, I guess. But everything from
Well,
logos,
it's
banners,
pretty
ads, all
wide.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wide.
Okay.
I do want to come back to something though, because I think it's something that a lot of people don't talk about, or I haven't read a
Yeah.
lot about with
Hmm.
in terms of the sales process. We still have a sales process today, and our
Hmm.
sales team though isn't selling, they're managing expectations. And that I don't know if
Mm.
is unique to our business or a lot of other businesses, but our number one determination of retention is correct expectations. If you
What it
come
is, what
in,
it isn't,
yeah,
what's useful, what's not useful, what you got to do to make the system work. Right? Because the user interface is a creative services request, right?
exactly. So
Yeah.
you could get the same deliverable that you really need, but if your expectations are here and the deliverables here, you're going to say this isn't great. But if they're here, they're at lower or at where it
Yeah.
says you get the same thing, same quality, same design, same everything. You'll be like, I love this. So that's a big challenge we're looking to figure out right now is how do we do that in a way that is personable, a way that people feel like they can connect to us and talk, but isn't so human intensive as it is today with the sales team because right now it's just it's an incredible choke point in terms of scale to say
Hmm.
every single person has to talk to someone just to try the system. But when we introduced the sales motion, it did increase retention tremendously
Right. Yes.
because the expectations were being aligned.
I get it. Okay. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I see that as well. And there's, adding human touch into the process generally makes everything that comes after there better, right? They understand it more
Right.
clearly, they get onboarded more clearly, and so forth. So that's fascinating. Did it take you a few years of, I don't know, maybe you did the first project yourself and then hired some local contractors? And I know you started offshoring to awesome, marketing designers in the Philippines and so forth. Did you how long did it take before you kind of had a flow of what this is and what this isn't and all that service market fit game and ICP game?
Yeah, I mean, I've never really done the design, to be completely
Yeah, yeah,
honest. I,
yeah.
I did a little bit in college and maybe for 6 months after that. And then I realized it was terrible and I got fired from my design job. And then I just started working in marketing and hiring designers. But I think I chose something that was going to be a known product market fit when I launched Design Pickle because of my experience running the agencies.
Right.
So I launched Design Pickle looking back at all the work that I did. And really, the one question I asked myself is when were my clients the happiest? It wasn't with these big, crazy, complicated projects. It was literally like I got something done really fast in a pinch.
Hmm.
And they were like, that's when their excitement was so high and they were so thankful. So I said, what if I could just create a business that optimizes for that moment in the space of design? We're not going to take 3 weeks, 3 months, all these meetings, all these vision boards and astrological signs to tell you why this design is so great.
Hmm.
We're just going to get you something relatively quick that's good that you can use and not be a headache.
Ah,
That's like why our pickle logo original one is a
ah.
smiling pickle. Because it's like we wanted to be, I just wanted to be like, hey, this is kind
You're
of
in a pickle. We'll
friendly
get
and
you out of the
chill.
pickle. Yeah, right.
That I wish I could say that was the original idea, but I actually just love pickles. And then later on, I was like, oh yeah, you're in a design pickle. But unfortunately, I wasn't that smart when we branded the company.
This week's podcast is brought to you by my friends at Fullscale. Last year, I interviewed three-time software founder Matt Watson on this podcast about his successful practical founder journeys. Matt leveraged offshore development talent in his last two SaaS companies to hire quickly and scale up efficiently. His top developers and designers were offshore in the Philippines, but they weren't one-off contractors and they weren't difficult to manage outsourced agencies. He found an endless supply of top tech talent who became savvy members of his team, working hard every day to get things done. So for his fourth tech venture, Matt created Fullscale, which is one of the fastest growing software development companies in any region. Fullscale vets, employs, and supports over 300 professional developers and designers and testers in the Philippines who can augment and extend your core dev team. I know practical SaaS founders who use Fullscale to grow faster and avoid the product development nightmares that can kill a growing startup. So visit fullscale.io and see why their approach works so well, and book a call to see if they can help you. Now back to our podcast. Well, I think when you were starting, because I know it was 2015, I was the CMO at Infusionsoft, big company. We had a massive conference, 5,000 people in Phoenix, and you were running around giving out pickles in your pickle costume or pickle uniform or whatever you want to say. It was quite funny. We have a picture of that still,
Yep.
hanging out. There's everybody in their boots and looking all serious, but then there's Russ with his pickles, kind of thing. Did it go fast and quickly with that kind of idea? Well, you know, uh,
Well, yeah. I mean, it was just the antithesis of what design people were, right?
uh-huh.
I got
The
this
opposite of
branding
the pain. Yeah.
degree. Yeah,
Yes.
I have this degree from this art institute, or I'm this person, I'm this expert, and you're hiring me, and you don't know as much as I do. And like, I was like, look, we're gonna go flip that on its head. We're not going to actually talk about design, which was one of my mistakes
Ah,
dressing up as a pickle, handing out pickles. But people connected with the
yeah. Yeah.
brand,
Uh-huh.
which then led to the other conversations about,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
what the heck are you even doing here? But it was never something that I wanted people to feel that they could couldn't approach.
Hmm.
And I think today it's not as bad as it was 10 years ago because there's so much more designers with tools like Canva and design is much more
Yeah,
accessible.
that core design problem. Yeah, it was really painful 10 years ago when you had all of a sudden you
Right.
need tons of things and it's like senior designer and then project plans and then a month later and it's very expensive. It's a nightmare.
It was exactly like, and so I just say that today we're actually working on a rebrand, which is really exciting. We're still keeping Design Pickle.
Mm,
We're kind of moving into less goofy, less silly,
yeah.
and more just like really solid friend. Someone that like that guy who's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to call that person, and I know that he's going to be there, she's going to be there. So I'm excited to see this roll out in January. Is when we do it,
Okay.
January 20 for the 10 year. But I think today, people want to trust and connect with brands as much as they may want to be entertained.
Hmm.
But we want to present ourselves in where we're really at today, which is an incredibly valued, trusted resource for people that has been around the original product for now a decade. But I did get on stage with Clayton Mask at the event and made him put on a pickle costume. So speaking of
I
Infusionsoft
I missed you guys
lore,
both in Phoenix when I was in
yeah,
town, and yeah, we caught up with each other there.
it was almost 10-year full circle of me wearing it and then getting someone from your team to wear it as well. So
Yeah. Well,
I
let's
don't
go
know if he was
back.
happy about
Let's
it.
go back to the journey here. It seemed
Mhm.
like it went off like a shot. This new kind of business model, this new proposition. It was very different than classic designer. Solved the big pain. And if I remember correctly, you bootstrapped this thing, and it was growing fast. But pretty quickly, you had 100 people working on projects, and we're keeping them busy with your,
Mhm.
you know, uh, productized service. How long did it take you to get to 100 designers?
Probably, I'm going back to when we were meeting a lot of them in person. I would say between 3 and 4 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't as fast as I feel like it was, but
To all of us on the
it
outside,
was,
you were already, moving
yeah,
fast. So, right.
yeah. And I think too, we found ourselves, we haven't talked a lot about it, but we really hit product market fit with the creative contract workflows too, because
Mm,
before Design Pickle, working as a creative, you had two options: really low paying, tough environment employment situations, if you could get them, because we're in a lot of emerging markets, Mexico, Philippines, Indonesia.
mhm,
So the employment rate is very low. So if you
mhm.
got a job, it's for sure not going to pay a lot, and it's going to be really hard, even borderline abusive or actually abusive.
Yeah.
But then the other option for these creatives is the freelancer roulette, the freelancer
Mhm.
lottery. I'm going to show up every day and try to find work. And that's really hard to manage a family and build a life around with no income
They want recurring
security.
revenue and consistency and happiness
Exactly.
and all of that.
Yeah. So we
Interesting.
decided to really focus a lot on the quality of life for our creatives. And to this day, no creative has to work overnight. Everyone gets paid above market rates. They have extreme freedom, like any remote worker would, to work wherever they want, when they want. And I have dozens, if not 100 stories or more of people who have bought homes, sent kids to college, built homes for their family, or moved parents in because they now could do something with that. And that's really one of the most meaningful parts about what I've done is help an industry that really didn't have a better choice. If you were called to be a creative, you just had to
Yeah.
deal with these really tough economic realities.
Wow. So it seems like are these dedicated to a specific account? If I sign up, am I going to get some person that I'll continue to work with, or is there a pool of people that work on my projects to my specifications?
Yes and yes.
Yeah.
How it really works is depends on what you're requesting. So
Yeah. Yeah.
if your requests are pretty consistent in what they are, whether it's digital or maybe you were doing Instagram reels all the time, you'll be assigned to a dedicated team to handle that, and you'll see the same designer or designers
Yeah.
work on your stuff.
Hmm.
But if they're sick, they're out, they're not working that day, all of that's handled seamlessly, and you don't even have to worry about it, but you would see other people work on your
Yeah.
account. So we prioritize consistency and the continuity of output over saying, "Hey, Greg, sorry, you got to wait 3 days. Your
Yeah.
designer's not available." And
Yeah.
so that's always a balance too, because sometimes that's when we can get into quality. As you build a relationship, you get to know the brand and better. So sometimes when designers come in, there's a bit of a learning curve, but Usually it's someone from a pod structure that we have, and they're able to recognize the brand, know what they want, see the history, see the work history, and just get right to work. You don't have to onboard another creative just because
Hmm.
someone needs a day off.
Yeah. I imagine that there's this continuing as we do building software, especially from the early days. We're sitting with customers, we're calling them, we're seeing bugs, we're getting feature requests and everything. It's and it sounds like you're still iterating on it, right? It isn't just you're still changing things up, but like, is there anything just crazy unusual about this iteration of the consistent service experience, the design and building? And it's not code. You do, I don't know, do you have to go through quarterly iterations of how we do things and how we expect our customers to interact with us?
It is very much like standard every. I mean, we are a software company. We have an
Yeah.
API, we have product team, engineers, data science team, AI algorithms, data lakes, all the stuff that every company has. I'm just insane enough to add a ton of people into the mix that
Right,
we
right.
have to
Yeah.
manage
Yeah.
too.
Hmm.
But I would say it's really looking at those core inputs of retention and quality and say, hey, if we change this, is that client expectation getting closer to be matched
Hmm.
or not? That's true. That's really one of those unique KPIs that we have is did I get what I expect? And not just in creative quality, but in timeline, in
Effort.
in format, and all the pieces. And that's where we're spending a lot of our time right now. And how do we make that better? And there's some really easy low hanging fruit that we're going after with projects and templates and things that you can build. So every request can start from a unified space. But we're also looking at quality review. How can that be done by AI? How can that find
Hmm.
errors and things that would be abnormal and be able to flag a request before it gets back to a client and notify a designer to say, hey, this doesn't seem right. Take another look. So the more we can line expectations with output, the better our business becomes. And that's probably one of the most exciting parts of how software has been evolving and changing. And there's so many things, probably more than we can test right now and do that I believe will really help on that front.
Spoken like a true SaaS founder, we realize the ultimate leverage in our business is how much consistent value can we create for our customers
Exactly.
beyond what
Yeah.
which is totally different than the old software business and totally different than a big design agency that isn't,
Hmm.
putting half of their company team on improving the delivery of value against the expectation, right? What a
Exactly.
what a momentum that you have there. Do you talk to your agency friends? And I still know people who run agencies in Phoenix, and they think you're on a different planet.
I don't have many agency friends anymore because either they've sold them or I don't run in those circles. But no, I mean, truth be told, I talk to agency people all the time because
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in
Mhm.
a situation where I'm their clients. They're coming to me on how do I create product services fit with what I'm
Yeah.
doing. I will say when we launched, there was a ton of ego that was
Ah,
thrown at me like I'm ruining the industry, and I'm in a position where I'm devaluing design by making it so accessible and affordable. And I'm like, I don't think that's what's happening. But ultimately, I want agencies and anyone I'm connecting with to realize that the agencies will always be around because what an agency really is like a gathering of experts and some process or system to create something in a consistent way itself. And I think that agencies that adopt more of a business machine like process oriented
mhm.
way of doing things are going to be the ones that really succeed because no longer will the defensible mode be I know how to design software better than you because
Yeah,
that's something that's going to be everyone
yeah,
will be
yeah.
able to use. It's more going to be my process is better than yours. My quality is better than yours. My results are better than yours, and that will require a lot more alignment in terms of how you run your company versus before where you're just like I have Adobe and you don't. you know
I know how to use it and you don't, right? And yeah, that's
Exactly.
amazing. So you've gone through this evolution where you emailed your friends and hired some people and you got this thing going and it started to grow in the recurring revenue world. Now you've got a whole platform that you can put in your requests and see exactly what's going on and things happen and the whole review process and so forth and empowering your employees with AI tools and so forth here. Can you explain the steps of that journey? You said at first you didn't have a platform and those kind of tools, but now it's getting quite sophisticated. I'm sure that's part of your growth
Yeah.
plan is keep building that. But how did that go?
I mean, it was like, well, it didn't even, I didn't even have software originally. It was like,
Yeah.
here's how you do it. I think the most complicated thing I had at the time was Stripe. And then you paid me and I sent you an email saying, here's how you use the system. And then a couple months I realized, wait a minute, it's pretty easy now to know who's paid and who's not. But what if this grows? There's no way of tracking this. There's no gating. There's no login. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So I'd say about halfway through our first year, I decided to create an app, and that became something where I then pushed into, my first foray into software development with different teams, outsourced teams, things like that. And it was super stitched together. Like we took a back end ticket management system, built a UI that integrated with it. Eventually, the UI and the first app grew until it started breaking. And we had to rebuild it again in 2018,
Hmm.
2019. But along the way, it actually from the very beginning, I always had this vision that our software was what we've been discussing this whole time. It's really the facilitator of a creative process from beginning to end. So you're using the software to find a creative, work with the creative, collaborate with the creative, receive files from a creative, and wow, wouldn't this be really valuable for any organization who's managing a creative process to use with or without our team?
Hmm.
And so there was a quick blip in my history where I created a pure SaaS product called Jar. And it
Mm.
was this exact idea, but just a software, pure SaaS. The most successful SaaS product I've ever built. We had 120% net revenue retention with like 12 and then 13 clients and then 14 clients. And then I ran out of money self bootstrapping this in addition to Design Pickle. So, but we've come now full circle because our roadmap is that exactly that is that we're building a platform that if you run a traditional creative process, I need something, I need someone to do it, I need to revise it, and then I need files to go somewhere. You could use our platform with or without our service layer. And we've already started rolling out pure
Interesting.
SaaS revenue
Okay, look
and
at you.
features. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like a real, I mean, mentioned Jason Fried and other people coming on this podcast that were agencies that built software. Now that's all they do. We're like the 10 years really slow version of that, where we're finally getting to here's our lane for the mid-market slash SMB creative process management tool, which is a mouthful. We got to work on the branding, but it's completely, again, wide open. There's no one in this space. You either have like Trello or you have Adobe Workfront. And in the
Mm.
middle, there's nothing to manage the creative process that's really optimized for what people need, and that's to communicate better.
Yes, isn't that right? And that's how Jason describes Basecamp. It's communications and
Mm-hmm.
coordination and collaboration and all of that. Do you think that Design Pickle's going to turn into a software company primarily with some done for you on the side, or it's just another way to grow? Is enable others that don't use your service to use your software?
I think services is our competitive advantage as we expand into software. You're always going to need a professional to help you. We just took it a bit of a different path, a bit of a reverse order of operations, but I do think it's the long-term durability of what we're creating is to
Yeah.
say, because look, at the end of the day, one of our highest churn reasons isn't quality, it isn't anything negative. It's like I hired somebody. Thank you
Yeah.
for helping me get to this point in which now I
Hmm.
can bring someone on stable and do it. So whatever that decision point, we said, great, this platform you've been using, you can use with this person and everyone knows how to use it and it's integrated into your systems. And here's just a monthly fee to continue on. And by the way, if you need help at any point, click a button and we're
Press the
here.
button. Yes, right.
Yeah.
I love
So
that.
that's, I think it's all
Uh,
gonna, oh, we got a long road though.
no, I get it.
Services is going to be there.
Yeah. Um, and that's the kind of the practical founder way is every year
Mhm.
you make progress, learn something more. If you got a little left over after, all your investment from your sales revenue, you can invest and keep growing it. I have no doubt that you'll keep going. Sounds like you're still having fun there. In one of my practical founder CEO peer groups this week, uh, one of the founders, and I know he's going to listen to this podcast, so I won't name him, said, we're almost to 10 million in revenue. We did another look at our customer base for the year. And what we found is our customers, 80% of the customers who love us and stay and buy 50% more the next year also use our done for you service as a layer on top of that. So it can go both directions.
Totally.
And if you were VC funded software, you would never get to add that done for you service layer that just pays off so well. And it goes both ways. I totally see
Totally.
it. Yeah,
Totally.
that's very
Totally.
exciting. So the software manages the projects. Is it, and it stores your brand guidelines and all your
Yep.
files and all that back and forth. Is there an AI magic to help people create their creative requests more clearly and your designers to deliver it faster? Can you say we're going to do all this 50% better with AI next year, just the delivery inside the system? Or
I mean,
what
I'd
is
love
AI
to,
to you
I
now?
could
Yeah.
definitely could say whatever, but I think there's two camps of AI. One is what I think most people who've touched is it's incredible technology. It's helping in
Yeah.
so many spaces and industries, but only when the output is very binary. And so when
Defined. Yeah.
you have a defined output, it's incredible. As you start to get into creative output, which it can actually do very well, it's incredibly inconsistent and unscalable. So for one, like I mentioned in compliance, ensuring that all of our creatives are
There
equipped
you
with
go. Yeah.
commercial grade tools like Adobe Firefly. So there's never going to be any issue or risk of something at some point, some lawsuit. You think way back to the Napster days, and someone
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
made an
Mhm.
example of copyright infringement. But then we're looking at endpoint solutions. We're not going to, create our own foundational model that's going to outpace anyone in this space. But what we could do, in one of our first prototype features, was something called Request AI, which literally is just give me a brief. Like, here's what I want to make in a sentence or two. What are all the details that I need to include to go to the designer? And
Right.
it automatically builds it out in your request
Which
form.
every great designer on the other end of a request, that's their bane of existence is a vague, uh, unstructured creative request that it just is
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
nightmare, on
And
their
I'll
side.
tell you what, I've been making requests my whole life. I use this tool and I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot to include that detail. Or, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, this would be helpful. So, even for experienced people, it's just a nice catch all to make sure that request is built out enough so that those first revisions come back as expected. But I'd say for us, like, we want to simply look at AI and creation as an enhancement of the process, whether it's the concepts and ideas that can get done faster, whether it's the communication between client and creative, or quality and error control. But it's really at this point something that's challenging for us to try to say this is our lane,
Yeah.
because it's evolving so fast and
Yeah.
we really can't make bets on things that aren't proven as a practical founder.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and you raised some practical investment, probably a little bit for you, secondary for the founder
Mhm.
who, invested so much and probably didn't take too much off the table for all those years, and some for the business here. You were probably getting people on LinkedIn every day. Can we invest? Can we buy you? And so forth. Why did you choose to, get some outside investment and work with, the folks at Colorado River partners
You
after
know,
all
for
that?
me,
Yeah. Yeah.
for me, it was ensuring the long term path and vision of Design Pickle could
Mm,
be accessed. That to me was something I wanted to do in a timely manner. It was something where I felt that bootstrapping would get us there, but I also wanted to be in a position where we could take advantage of the momentum that we had,
Yeah,
which
momentum.
as you grow and get scale and get larger does slow down. So how do we
Yeah.
accelerate that? And yeah, and having an equity position sold and receiving that financially personally was fantastic to do
Yeah.
after 8 years in the business and being
Hmm.
there. It wasn't a lot, it's not life changing. It was, let's pay off some cars and have a little bit on the side. But at the end of the day, that was the first time in which I said, wow, there's value in this company that I've materialized. What else could we do? How big could we make this?
Yeah. The classic growth equity thing is a little secondary for the founders: buy the house, buy the cars, fund the college funds, get a little breath in there, and stop the white knuckle bootstrap game, so you could see quite clearly about and pick up speed as you gain momentum. Did you feel that like it was like a little bit of help and relief to see things more clearly?
Yeah, and it was quite a, I would say, learning experience
I'm sure. Yes.
to get you know a, an exam that deep and thorough many times over, because our deal we closed wasn't the first attempt at raising
Yeah. Yeah.
capital. We went through it
Ah.
multiple
Okay. Right.
times.
Hmm.
So it was a really good exercise in business maturity, and for me as a
Yeah.
CEO to go through that and understand what are the things that really matter. And I can now speak to other founders and in any space, not just mine, but other, and be like, these are the most important things, and these are, this is what you need to be and what you need to do to be able to get these outcomes you're seeking. And I really didn't understand any of that prior to, because we
Yeah.
had never raised a single dollar.
Can you give
So
an example of one of those that wasn't obvious to you, who wasn't thinking about this too much and prepping your whole life to go raise funding, but like what on the other side, something that's really valuable that they brought to the table from the due diligence and the experience of working with an investor?
well, like, there's common stuff I don't think was a surprise, like, hey, if your retention's higher, that's better, or hey, growing fast is good. But I will say one nuance thing, which I think is really important, is no one's going to invest into a business they don't understand. Not a smart investor, at least.
Yeah.
And we were in a really weird scenario because we were going after a sizable amount of money that we actually had PE conversations and very formulaic mathematical type investors. Here's where you're at.
Spreadsheet
Here's where
investor.
we
Yeah.
want to go. Yeah, here's your spreadsheet. And this hybrid SaaS services company didn't fit into
Ah,
any of those models.
I get
So
it.
we would get pretty far in the deal process. Like, we don't understand what the end game is, because we've never built an Excel formula that has this business before. So I think at the end of the day, the model of, if you're going to raise capital, it really is critical and important that your audience that you're trying to raise money from really understands your business. And I'm actually on the board of advisors for a SaaS fintech company that deals. It's a friend of mine, and I know him well, and he's at a stage that I can help him. But he's dealing with farmers and how do they create a financial dashboard for a farming business, which is very unique financial
Wow.
lending and debt ratio and stuff that you don't normally have in a regular business. Well, guess what? He went and raised capital to a company that just does farming fintech. And it was the easiest pitch he's ever had. I was almost pissed because it was like, wait, you pitched two companies and they gave you this crazy term sheet and it's so easy. But guess what? He was speaking to people who
Yeah.
understood his business and understood it really well.
Founder funding fit.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Great. How has that experience been? A lot of founders hesitate with even angel investors. But the growth equity game, which is maybe a step up, they don't want a board that has a say in what they want. They don't want monthly reporting. They don't want people analyzing spreadsheets and giving them recommendations. Um, it's not VC funding where they're all over you, or private equity where they're going to tell you what to do. But how has the experience been for you uh, having partners in your business?
it's been fantastic. I mean, it's been harder, but that was by design,
You
like,
wanted that help.
exactly,
Yeah. Okay.
exactly. The rigor of reporting, the rigor of board meetings, the rigor of analysis. Um, I have a pretty, like strong majority position still in the company.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
was no issue of control and where I'm at. But I knew going into it, it would be no longer what does Russ just want to do and think about, and we
Today.
just
Yeah.
go do it. I have an employment contract. Like I can technically be fired by the board. Like
Ah,
there's like real things, and that's exactly why I wanted it. And it's been a net positive, even if in moments I'm like stressing out about a board meeting or fielding random phone calls about stuff from an investor. Like that is what I signed up for, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm very thankful for that opportunity, and it's made our business a lot stronger from the bones and how we operate and how we perform, so that when the next transaction does come, we're not having a bunch of write downs or things that are like, well, this is not really done right. Like we've already gone through all of that process.
so you actually chose, you didn't have to do this. You weren't desperate for it. You could have bootstrapped, but you chose to invite somebody in and put some money in, that's serious capital. So they have some uh, serious involvement in the company. They don't control the company or the rest, but did you do that because you wanted to build $100 million business and you knew you needed to solve those things that they could help you with? And this was a great way to do it? Or how did you define that?
Yeah, we did. We were actually cash flow positive and
Yeah.
profitable. Yeah, I just didn't want to play small.
Okay.
I
Go
wanted to
faster.
build
You
a,
could have said, I want to go
yeah.
faster. Yeah.
And we haven't gone faster, I don't think. I think we just are playing bigger. We have better teams. We have more adults in the room. We have bigger vision. We have more confidence. We have a better quality company. But yeah, the end game is to go and sell this to a large services organization that can plug in what we're doing to tens of thousands of their SMB clients
There you
and
go.
bring this system into another ecosystem that's very, very lucrative. And and I don't think we would have been able to get there just limping along year over year as a bootstrap company.
And you
10
could have
years.
sold the company as well. I'm sure people said, hey, can we buy that? But
Mhm.
you wanted to go longer
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
bigger.
we
Yeah.
had a couple serious conversations with publicly traded marketplaces based out of Israel. I won't name any names, but you can probably
Yeah. Yeah.
figure it out.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, they didn't go anywhere. Incredible leadership team, incredible opportunity, but it was like a buyout, a quick buyout, low ball offer, and yeah, I had that bigger vision. So, but
Right.
it is something that I think will continue to make a big impact on back to that creative story of providing that employment and providing that connection to creatives where they can have that income stability. I'd like to see that become as big as humanly possible because there's so many displaced creatives in all of these markets that this is how they see their life and their passion and their calling, but they don't have the economic opportunities like we do in Western countries. And if we can be a lane for them to follow their passion and create a lifestyle that's healthy and happy and secure, that is going to feed into all of the great results for our clients that we can also deliver.
Well, that is part of the game of getting to 100 million. It's not just uh, the founders, the asset value of the company for the founder. It's a vision of creating massive impact for your employees, for your partners, for your customers, at scale and
Mm-hmm.
expanding the impact. It's really exciting that you can create a massive impact and create a big business. And, there's plenty of space available to do that. Congratulations on surviving for 10 years and then raising your sights. I'm sure it hasn't been easy. Would you say it's been brutal? I know you've had a life along the way, but how would you describe the 10-year experience now that we're looking back?
No, brutal was when I had an agency. This has definitely been hard and challenging, but not brutal.
Yeah.
But I think that is because I got like if this was my first business or I was just doing this from a
Ah,
really young age and I didn't have a lot of those other lessons, I probably would have found my way into them inside of this model. But I do think that at the end of the day, it never goes as fast as you want, and that's one of the bigger challenges. But then you look
ah.
back and it always you're like, wow, we've done a lot. So it's managing the expectations of and constraints that are always present with time, resources, people, with your vision, and how do you push on that as much as you can, but also be respectful that there's only a certain speed you can go as a practical founder.
Well, that's actually very analogous to the design problem you solve. It's about speed and expectations and time and moving the bar there. That's really awesome. Congratulations on your massive success and
Thank you.
continued growth with Design Pickle. Russ, here on the Practical Founders podcast, there's a lot of founders who are getting on the field, some tech-enabled service providers out there and other SaaS providers that have some services, a lot of SaaS founders. What do you have to say to those that that are bootstrapping, getting a little funding, but still staying in the practical zone, and they have a vision to create a 10 or 20, 30, maybe $100 million company out there and stay in the game long enough to do that? What advice do you have for them most often?
I mean, I think it really comes down to recognizing that there is a large market size for very boring niche companies, and finding that is, I think, the fastest path to success.
Mm.
It's something that I sort of think about. If I was to do Design Pickle over again, what would I do? Is I would have just picked like we are the graphic design provider for, feline mobile cutting trucks or something, like be so narrow that we dominate that and then dominate another one and dominate. We just went super broad and it's been
Yeah,
fine,
yeah,
but it
yeah.
would have been easier. When you have such limited resources and time and money and capital, having that narrow niche is critical to maximize all those dollars and investments, and frankly creates all of the most narrow niche things you could possibly do are actually really, really big, and to think of the global opportunity that you might have. So
Right.
don't be afraid to be boring and specific would be my advice.
The old F word, and you and I have had conversations through the years about the focus game.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that's actually the way you described it could be on the t-shirt for practical founders. There's an infinite number of very large niches for boring stuff where you can get there quickly. There are 10,000 mobile pet grooming businesses, probably
Cat
in Texas.
specialists.
Yeah, cats
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
United
Yeah.
States. You could be the leader. A funny story here. I was part of the broad horizontal, big, CRM industry for a long time now. There's tens of thousands of vertical CRMs, but somebody described to me, this is the practical founder way. Like another founder exits for 50 million, and he made and his team made management software for bouncy house rental companies. And there's 3 or 4 of those, and he built a pretty big company there. And people depend on his software every single day. And it's a very practical world and a great business. So I totally get it. Thanks for being on the Practical Founders podcast, Russ. Really appreciate you sharing your story and some of that insider stuff. It's great to see you.
Thanks so much, Greg. Appreciate it. And best of luck with this. Thanks for doing it.
You bet. Thanks for watching this week's founder interview on the Practical Founders podcast. Be sure to hit like and then subscribe to my Practical Founders YouTube channel to keep up with my weekly videos for serious software founders who are building valuable companies without big funding. Check out my blog and information about my Practical Founders CEO peer groups at practicalfounders.com. And follow me on LinkedIn to keep the conversation going. See you next week.